I wouldn't talk publicly. I don't trust any of you. Like it's been recorded.
It's now red. It's now red.
My assumption.
Just know it's now red. That means we're live. That means we can not say the other stuff, and we can talk about fun stories like my dad putting an axe through his foot. That's the kind of stuff that we talk about. That was like 4 weeks ago.
First
Chase.
question of this is a live show.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
so,
it's
live.
Is that a Canadian thing to prove like your manhood? Like every
gotta put an
Canadian
axe in
has
your
to
foot?
just put
Yeah,
an
I think
axe
so.
through their foot?
Yeah, it's actually that's why snowshoes were invented, because once you can't walk, you have to transport yourself to school with snowshoes. That's part of our 8-year-old mating rituals.
Yeah.
Dude, that's,
Hey.
that's amazing. That's quite
We have a
story.
show tonight.
I'm not tough enough to be Canadian. It's good to know.
But Peter, you're a former member of the Commonwealth.
I still am a member, technically.
Well, there you go.
What are you saying? Have I been evicted and no one's let me know?
Well, I didn't know. Do you remain a citizen of the Commonwealth?
Yeah, as far as I know, they don't kick you out unless you commit a war crime or something. Like, I'm a permanent resident of the United States, and I still have English citizenship, British citizenship, I guess it counts as.
So Shane, Chase, how does it feel to be, boxed in by members of the Union Jack broader network?
This is Fantasy Intervention. Now here to intervene with your fantasy life, Shane Manila, Jakob Sanderson, and Chase Vernon.
Doop doo doo.
That just felt like the right time to go ahead and start the show off. It just felt like
Well, I was just about to point out you missed the opportunity to ask Shane if he likes being part of like a Commonwealth meat sandwich, and I feel like that was a missed opportunity.
Actually, that's one of the specials at our campus bar, the Commonwealth meat sandwich.
Okay.
Wait, is that a real thing?
No, obviously not.
So wait, Canadians consider themselves British and French?
Unless they're in Quebec.
Yeah, so here's the thing, right? In 1759, there was a war.
All right. No one cares.
Welcome to the fucking history podcast.
No one even likes Canada.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to
No one
the
likes
War
it.
of 1812
Apart from
on
Canadians.
Dynasty Intervention tonight. Peter Howard is here. Shane Manila is, of course, here. Chase Vernon's here, and I'm here, your host, Jakob Sanderson. Tonight's beer, of course, is the Blue Buck. This is a Victoria beer. In honor of we have a British person here, so I had to honor Victoria with a local brew here, the Phillips Blue Buck. And Peter, our esteemed guest, how are you today? And what brings you here? Are you happy to be with us today?
I'm here because I heard Shane was going to be here. Like, why am I the esteemed guest? Surely that's Shane.
I deal with Shane all the time.
Like,
It was
star
esteemed a
player
while
over
ago,
there.
but it's diminishing returns.
It is. It really is.
Fair enough. I know someone sent me a link, and now I'm here, and I'm having fun, enjoying it. Nice to see all your pretty faces, I guess.
Well, thank you,
That's
Peter.
all I got.
Take that.
It's nice to see your pretty face as well. Shane, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great, man. I love hearing Peter's Southern drawl. I mean, that's my favorite thing. Is just look, man. I'm from up north, so the accent's a little different, but something about that Southern drawl just really, really does it for me. Also, I noticed the intro is fucking wrong. It says Fantasy Intervention. This is Dynasty Intervention, bitch. Edit the title, please.
Oh my God! I'll edit.
I just want to say I'm so thankful to Shane, who 2 weeks ago was saying that's a stupid title, Jacob, and then 2 weeks later he's so on board.
grew
He's
on
a
me.
team player.
It grew on me. And look, you're still growing, so I have to encourage you. You know what I mean? Like, I can't always just be like, bad Jacob. Once in a while, I have to be like, no, you did good, buddy. You did good. Who did good? You did good.
Oh, he's a special boy.
Look, we got some great people in the chat here. Troy Olson in the chat asking why Howdy is more special guest than the rest. I mean, come on. It's Peter Howard. He's a legend. I was asked by a friend today who wanted some more accounts on fantasy Twitter. They said, name 10 accounts that I don't already follow that I need to follow on fantasy Twitter. And it was like PA Howdy, obviously within that 10. He's one of the GOAT tier counts on our services. Cooter's in the chat. Host of Petite Pods.
Hey, Cooter. I love you. And by the way, I don't know what this is all leading up to, but I'm not loaning you money. I don't care how much you pretend I matter or like. It feels like this is all building up to a request. I can think of no other reason you'll be blowing this much smoke for no good reason. But just so you know, I don't got none, and you can't have it. So throwing that out there.
And Dave's in the chat. Nice to see you, Dave. Thank you. I'm so glad someone watches the show. For me, it's I don't know why. I question it. But I appreciate it nonetheless. And, of course, Chase is here. Chase, how are you doing today?
Oh, I'm doing phenomenal. Just spent all day writing an article just to realize that I had auto save off. And I restarted my computer to get ready for the show, and the whole article's gone. But it's okay because it was a mock draft article, and I wanted to redo the whole thing anyways. So it worked out. I'm not mad. Not mad. But
you're not mad. You're just disappointed?
I'm a little disappointed. We got to see how this episode goes, and then I'll let you guys know by the end of it. If I'm going to be up all night having to redo this article, it's because this episode did not go well, which, I mean, with Shane and Jacob in the same episode, I don't know if it ever goes well on a Tuesday.
We do this weekly.
Yeah, I realize this is our first week.
All right.
You're the
well, that's what I'm saying. That's very true. That's probably actually the case, is I'm actually the problem. It makes sense. Yeah. It does make sense.
Well, like if this goes well enough with Peter, maybe we'll just
replace
make this a 3-person show, and
okay.
then that'll solve the issues.
It won't.
It won't.
In fairness to me, I didn't even know this was an actual show until after the first one recorded.
Yeah. Well, it was a kidnapping, right?
Yeah.
That's that was sort of an issue. Well, look, let's get into it here.
Is that a
thing? Because Shane's only partially committed to us, and he tends to leave us for shows that he schedules right after this show. It's like, when you're on a date, like a first date, you're not really sure how it's going to go. And so you intentionally put another commitment like after the first 2 hours, and it's like, oh, this was great, but I'm sorry, I can't have dessert. I got to go. That's Shane. But it's like date 8. he just knows that it's 50 minutes or bust.
That was the best thing I think you've ever said, Jacob. That is the most intelligent, most witty thing you've ever came up with, and I loved every second of that.
Wow, I appreciate that.
Did you not read his Rashad Bateman article?
Oh God, Rashad Bateman.
Well,
man. I heard somebody talking about Jacob on a different show, or who I thought was Jacob on a different show, because they were talking about taking Rashad Bateman over Etienne.
No, I would never do that to you.
I was like, oh, Jacob, what are you thinking? Turns out that it wasn't Jacob, but yeah, it's a little bit ridiculous, his love for Bateman.
I do love Bateman. And Chase, you've been warning us. Get ready for this segue, Chase. Talking about intelligence. Oh. You've been warning us about Bateman. You say, beware of shrinking people. And if there's one person in fantasy Twitter who has never cared about the size of a wide receiver, it's our guest tonight. It's Peter Howard. And why don't you talk to us a little bit about your process, who looks good to you, and specifically why size doesn't matter in football.
Oh, I was going to say, just because a woman tells you that doesn't mean it's true.
I was going to say, why does everything that comes out of the mouths of people, like, why does this all have to be so sexual with you guys? Like, I didn't get into this. Like, I don't know where I'm at right now, but I want out.
Or do you?
Wow. Yeah. Okay, dude. It's like, yeah, I don't care about size for the same reason I don't care about bloodline, because I'm not talking about horses or some other types of beasts of burden, like we often, way too often try to refer to actual people as when it comes to NFL players. Like, I don't think that's a thing. All right, where to start? I think the outside view in is size matters in the NFL because these guys are phenomenal athletes and they're hitting each other really hard, and you're going to get hurt. And that's a fair reason all of us would die if we entered the NFL. But there's no real medical research that shows that having a smaller or higher BMI or a bigger or thicker frame or a taller or shorter player is more likely to get injured or injured in a certain way more than others. Like I'm not a doctor, but I try to keep up with as many fantasy players that are, and I can't find any relationship to it. So that I already have to throw out the window. So what is it that we prefer? That it looks good, I guess. Look at that monster running down the field, and that's nice and all, but I don't care if my T level rises as I score fantasy points. I just care about the points. So it doesn't matter to me that way. And while there is a strong, there's a strong commonality to wide receivers at different positions in terms of how they're built and how they're shaped. But those thresholds we look for tend to change as other players come in and then are then good. Like now, I'm getting challenged a lot with a 26 threshold for BMI, but it was 27 literally last year, and that's because Stephon Diggs hadn't happened fully yet. So now it's 26 because we've got to get Stephon Diggs in there. And I think it matters, but there's also relatively little disproportional representation in the group of players we're hunting for. There is some, but it's within a margin of error that doesn't really worry me too much. I don't think size confers talent or ability. And I think there's at least 2 levels of selection bias going on here where NFL coaches like bigger players. That's fair. Same way we like draft capital. I'll take it. But if they're already drafted, we've already kind of filtered for that. And they are also likely to give opportunity to players they think of as more prototypical. So you've got a second level of selection bias going on there, which is skewing who gets opportunity, which is kind of the key to everything. So I think it has a lot to do with who is most likely to be relevant in that way, but that's not saying anything about their actual ability. And if players run through those filters, like they survive the college game at an unusual size, then they've already been filtered for that. They can survive college football, which is unusual for people built of these smaller frames, these smaller heights, or these smaller BMIs. And then they're drafted. So teams seem, if they're drafted reasonably, then some team is willing to perhaps give them opportunity. And therefore, they've already run through that second filter. And it doesn't seem to have a large connection to ability outside of these types of selection. I mean, maybe, but I actually don't even know what really talent is, except describing the effect of it, which for me is fantasy points or opportunity, you could say. And we constantly see outliers to these. And if they pass through those 2 selection biases, then I think it just becomes a question of what do we have that suggests this player is either A, good, or B, bad. And the only thing I can find outside of, literally if they're drafted is production. How good were they in college? And most players playing, again, those smaller sizes aren't good in college because it's also difficult to be good in college. And if they were good in college, then I think the best, and they were drafted and they're on an NFL team. And then I think the best conclusion is this guy's just probably built a little differently. Let's see if his ability really translates, which we don't know if it will, but I think suggesting that their size means they are not good enough is just kind of just too much describing the sample instead of actually trying to have an opinion or predict it. That's just me.
Can you share my screen? Whoever's in charge of the back there.
Yeah. I got you. I got you right here.
So I hear what Peter's saying, but I don't care because this is actually live video of Tutu Atwell with his first reception in the NFL. And it's heartwarming, right? Because we didn't think he could do it because he's so little. But then what happens is unfortunately all these bigger guys just start to plow on them, right? Like, oh my God, like I think he just broke his neck there. And I don't want to make you too scared, so I'm going to skip ahead and just see what the final outcome for Tutu Atwell is here. And basically, everyone's running to the field because he's been murdered. Look at him; that's a shame. So I feel bad for Tutu Atwell.
So can I ask you, is it his BMI, his height, or his weight that makes you think he's going to die the first time he gets tackled in the NFL? I mean, which are we talking about?
Of his weight. I'm just weight's the only thing that fears. We've never seen someone that small. If he's 149.
If he was a little bit more compact, I'd feel better. But I mean, we said the same thing with Christian McCaffrey. They wouldn't last in the NFL, and he did all right. But it also something that I was looking at. And by the way, I do have a separate question for you, Peter. Sitting there and looking at it, it has a lot to do with how players take hits. So we've seen like Robert Griffin, right? And Robert Griffin didn't know how to take hits because he never got hit in college. Like he was able to avoid, outrun everybody, get to the sidelines, get out of bounds. That wasn't the case when he got to the NFL and he took hits. He didn't know how to take hits. He left himself vulnerable. CEH,
I think that's even saying a little bit too much more than I'm comfortable saying. Like I don't think we know that. Like you can just be unlucky. I mean, I'm pretty sure he knows how to take a hit better than I do. Like,
for
Shane,
sure.
Everyone here and everyone in the world knows how to take a hit better than I do. So relatively, he probably knows how to take a hit better than most players who don't get drafted in the first round of the NFL and be phenomenally productive in this first year. Like he probably can take a hit better than most.
But not like a Lamar Jackson. If you're going to run like that, you got to get low. You got to be more compact and be able to take hits like Lamar Jackson does. But my question
that's just a little too much describing what happened instead of saying that predicts something. Like that's just a description. That's not I think he could take a hit just fine.
It makes sense. So have you actually studied the BMI in production over a long period of time? Or
I don't know what that means. I mean, I've looked over a long period of time. I haven't I haven't been studying it for 20 years, if that's what you're asking, but I have looked over a large sample size, if that helps.
No. I mean, like more so as like a player's career length. Like, does it have any effect on a player's career length? Like, are you going to have a shortened career because of the BMI? Has that any relative connection?
I don't know. I don't think I've looked at it specifically that way. I mostly look for relevance and number of seasons they have relevance in fantasy. So.
Okay, I haven't looked into that at all. I was just curious if you actually, looked at it.
No. That would be more related to longevity, which for me is more of a medical question. And again, I'm never going to present myself as I have no idea. Like with Robert Giffen, that sounds reasonable, but I've got no idea if he's actually capable or less capable of taking a hit. I just don't know those things.
So
it's just that he's so much smaller than everyone else. It's not like, and I'm not a BMI. Like I'm not.
No, it is an extreme outlier.
Right.
Yeah, like it is extremely rare to be that size in the NFL.
If he was 166, I'd probably feel a little more comfortable.
So if we get him a sandwich,
here's the thing.
If we get him a sandwich, here's the weird thing. Like I used to weigh less, and now I weigh more. I think that's a thing that can happen. It is. It
is. But then he's going to lose his speed, and then his speed score is going to drop down the negatives. And
here's my question.
Right. I don't think it works directly that way. Okay.
My question is, where is the line? Because,
and that's the thing, though. When we start to combine, the argument against Tutu, and actually, our conversation really is Javonta Smith. I noticed you immediately default to the second round pick that went to the Rams for size, but that's an extreme example. Whereas Javonta Smith, people want to we don't make it there, right?
Well, but this is what I want to talk about because where's the line? Because to me it's like Smith, Tutu's BMI I believe is like almost identical to Tutu and Smith's BMI I believe are virtually the same, right? Tutu's a little shorter and he's a little lighter. But
you know who else their BMI is exactly the same as? Like almost within 1 decimal point. Robbie Anderson.
Yeah, Robbie Anderson.
And he was undrafted and somehow, despite having this terrible BMI, just dominated two much earlier drafted wide receivers in terms of opportunity, but that's impossible, obviously.
Right, but my question is, right, so my question is why is the
DJ Moore's thick? There's no way what happened in 2020 can happen. It just is impossible, obviously.
Okay. Look, can someone answer me why? Javonta at that tiny BMI, who didn't break out until junior year and is a senior declare, why we're allowed to draft him in round 1? But if I draft Tutu Atwell in round 3, who broke out earlier, who produced more earlier, and is just a little shorter and a little lighter, I'm laughed at for drafting him in round 3, but we're allowed to draft Javonta Smith in round 1. Can someone make that make sense? Because to me, Javonta Smith, it doesn't make any sense to me. To me, Tutu should be like a late second-round pick, and Javonta Smith should be an early second-round pick.
No, well, you're wrong there. But people aren't making fun of you for that. They're making fun of you because of your accent, and I think that's wrong.
Also, I'd like to throw out there, you're allowed to do whatever you want, man. Like, don't let the Twitter police stop you. You go take Tutu one-on-one. It's fine.
Hashtag Tuther in my bio. I'm so excited to have Peter here because he's the only other person on this app I know that's willing to draft Tutu Atwell. And I just don't know. I just want to know why are we allowed to draft Smith and not Tutu?
I would say it's a little more extreme for Tutu Atwell. Like even Kevin O'Brien backed off and was like, when we're saying size don't matter, we usually mean AB. He's only 5'10", right? We don't normally mean, hey, I was bigger than that when I was 14. I was literally bigger than that when I was 14 years old. And I'm a tiny, skinny nerd. So I have my reservations. But yeah, again, everything is relative. Like, there is concern there. But there's concern there for Terrence Marshall, who we've only seen good in theory, right? So, like, I think we can draft him reasonably and be high on him and love him, but it's relative to what, though? And in this class, you have, like, there's 2 players in this wide receiver draft class with a 27 BMI or higher, outside of Amari Rodgers and, like, that other guy no one cares about. And that's Taylor Wallace, who's now, like, the 4th option. And if we're worried about Rashad Bateman, then you're worried about Taylor Wallace. Yeah. And Jamar Chase. So we're saying you can't draft him above Jamar Chase is essentially... Okay, yeah, I'm good with that, but nothing to do with BMI again. You know? So everything's relative to what? And like you were saying with Tutu, like, there's a difference in saying I like him in the 2nd or 3rd round. And right now, I literally, he's going in the 4th a lot.
Oh, I know. I've never taken
people
him
don't care about draft capital when they're
3.
tiny, apparently. And so it's all relative. Yeah.
It doesn't matter because it happened. So it's kind of like a past conversation. But I mean, should Tutu Atwell have gone in the 2nd round? Or was that a hell of a reach? Because, I mean, sitting there and looking at it, I didn't even have close to the 2nd round. Like 4th was like the earliest thing I could ever envision him going.
Well, I mean, yeah, but to me, a big reason for that is, like, to me, there's a lot of players that fit the production thresholds that don't get draft capital, right? And that we kind of expect to not get draft capital for whatever reason. Like Seth Williams, you know, Tape Grinder said he's not very good. So I didn't expect him to get 6th round draft capital, but I didn't expect him to get 2nd round draft capital, even though his production profile says he probably should. You know, Tutu on my spreadsheet looks like an early 2nd rounder until I see that, you know, he's the size of Tinkerbell, right? and so then I look at that and I look at a guy like Tutu and I say, okay, well, obviously NFL teams aren't going to draft him in the 2nd round. And then Les needs, like, hold my beer. I'm going to do it.
Oh my God.
To me, like, would I draft Tutu, like, right where I would draft Devontae Smith? No, I'm not an idiot. But to me, like, in round 3, round 4, and I said this in my draft guide plug, you know, Occam's razor, like, the person with the least assumptions necessary is the one that I'd rather bet on. With Tutu, everything else is there except for the size. Like, he has the draft capital, he has the production, right? So to me, everything fits. What if we just assume that he can get past the size barrier? Because if he does, he actually looks good. If you're looking at all these other guys that you're drafting in round 4, they're terrible on like 8 different counts.
I don't know if he does, because I don't know if he can actually play over the middle and see the volume. Like, he could just be another gadget type player that McVay wants to roll out into the system. He's not going to be a slot guy unless they're rolling him out wide to the slot. You know, he's not going to end up being a primary target or the alpha X receiver. They're going to have to use him out wide in a lot of cases and get him as close to the sideline as possible. Not only just because of, you know, him getting hurt, which obviously might not be a concern. We don't know yet. But also because of the fact that we're sitting there and we're looking at, you know, inability to beat some of the bigger guys in the middle and being able to fit the ball into certain areas. You know, we don't know if we've never had a player like this. Like, I was sitting there going through it, and JJ Nelson was like one of the closest players I could find that was somewhat similar to Tutu Atwell in terms of, you know, body weight, speed, agility, burst. And honestly, I think that JJ Nelson beat him in a lot of those cases outside of the agility drills. So it's very interesting to sit there and kind of speculate as to where Atwell is going to end up.
Anyone want to get the last word in here on Tutu? Shane, you're muted.
So in the hospital, the guy weighs 149 fucking pounds. I mean, like, I don't give a fuck what his production was in college. He's going to die. And all you guys encouraging him to play in the NFL are really fucked up. Because
people.
You probably were excited when you found out Faces of Death was being rebooted, because you're like, oh, well, there's season 1. Tutu Atwell gets murdered on the field. But I don't care about him. I mean, whatever. He's not gonna be fantasy productive. He's not gonna.
You do care about him. You're the one trying to stop him from dying.
Well, that I care.
You're the most caring person on the show.
Yeah.
Peter and I are sending him out to his death.
He's not going to be fantasy relevant. We're arguing about a guy that's going to give us, like, what, some wide receiver 3 weeks. He might have a wide receiver 1 week when he has 1 reception for 86 yards and a touchdown and a punt return for, 60 yards and a touchdown. And then everyone will pick him up off the waiver wire. Like, no, you got to put all your money on Tutu Atwell. So I'm not.
You know, it's crazy because he didn't play special teams.
The accent you make fun of?
Yeah.
Why didn't he play special teams?
Because he's a superstar. You don't put your best players on special
what are you-
teams. He's
what are
out there
you
getting 1,200 yards at age 19.
Get out of here.
Can we talk
Get outta
about
here with
players that don't suck? Let's
All
move
right,
on.
well, let's talk about a player that I don't think sucks. But Peter
Can we
has slightly
Talk
other
about how we're
opinion.
defining suck. I mean, I'd love to just skip
compared to-
ahead
We
to the
don't
good
get-
players,
we
but I
don't
don't
get
know who
into
they
that
are.
on
I'm
this
trying to
show.
figure that out.
Like for anyone
I
that doesn't
didn't know there was a list.
For anyone that does not know, Peter and I have an ongoing bet here. And it's to do with a guy who you'll find in my Twitter banner, Terrace, not Terrence Marshall. And our bet
Got it.
is that however his ADP closes in Dynasty in August, that he will have a higher ADP the following year, because that was a much more scientific way to study whether it was a good pick by Peter than my very sad and reductive ways. So
No, it's just I've won too many bets with no one winning using points per game. Like this happened to me and Mike from the Big Dogs Gotta Eat Dynasty, I guess it is at this point, because we bet on tight ends and we used points per game, and both of us lost, but technically I won. And I was like, this isn't good. And I know I've just been researching wide receiver stats, and Dynasty League ADP kind of doesn't miss. When a wide receiver falls more than one round in this second
they're dead.
season, they kind of never break out after that. And
It's
so
over
it just
for them.
seemed like a fairer measure, because he could do not very good in points per game, but show something on the field that has us rise an estimate, and then I'd win without winning, if you know what I mean.
So
Wait,
Shane, who's
so-
going to win this bet? Or Chase, you can go first. You're
Wait,
you're
do
actually
you-
getting here.
Which one of you guys support like points per game? Because I'm not a points per game person personally.
What?
I like
What? Why
I like-
do you not support points per game?
no. I'm more of
I
like
think everyone's
I
a
like-
fan of points, Chase.
No. I'm not saying that aspect. I'm saying the fact that I want a durable receiver and I want a receiver that's consistent. So I want to see.
Oh
him in season stats.
God! I'm gonna
So-
like kick you off the show
So
for
then
good.
the only receivers you like are Javonta Adams.
He's pretty
and
good.
Michael Thomas
No,
2
he's
years
hurt all
ago.
the time.
He's pretty
Javonta is
good.
bad. The points per game
Shit.
people.
So you don't like any wide receivers, because those are the only
I
two
don't like
wide
anyone.
receivers that are consistent, and they were both injured.
Oh, he likes
So-
Allen
No,
Robinson. That's
I
it.
want-
It's
I
all
want
it
my
is. It's
wide
just Allen
receiver-
Robinson.
Allen Robinson's a good point. I know, but I want my wide receiver to play a minimum 13 games in a season. I don't want my receiver to be oft injured. Like that's not a player that I want on my team, because they end up not giving you even a startable week. So if you're drafting him in the first 3 rounds, you're not getting minimum 3 weeks that you can actually start him. Minimum 3 weeks you can't start him. Like why do you want that player in your team?
First of all, I would never draft wide
Well, because
receiver
they got to
first 3
draft
rounds.
someone in the first 13 rounds, and that describes no one in the first 13 rounds. So, I mean, that's probably why.
No, I
Just
I
keep
mean, to me,
trading
wide
back, I
receivers,
guess.
wide receivers replaceable. Like, sure, if you have an elite wide receiver 1, then that's awesome. That's a different story. But
Yeah.
beyond that, like wide receiver 2 through, like, or not the wide receiver 2, you know what I mean? Like wide receiver 13 or whatever through, wide receiver 60. It's like, who cares? It's like, to me, like I want durable running backs ideally, because if a running back goes down, they're so scarce. Like, what am I going to do? And now all of a sudden I'm playing Jared Dokes. But if a wide receiver 2 goes down, who cares? I'll just bring someone up from the bench.
I still like to see
that's fun in
consistency from
theory,
our
except for the fact running back 2s are as replaceable and actually more likely to churn. So I mean, I get that's true, but that's true. That's true for the other position too. So I'm not sure what that means. Like I hear that a lot, like wide receivers deep, but it's yes, in the same way running back 2 is deep.
So here's
But what's running back 2?
Yeah.
Like,
top 24.
But here's the thing. Really, it's the top 8 players at their position, less than that for tight ends, that matter. Everyone else is replaceable. It doesn't matter if you're talking about wide receiver, running back, or quarterback.
Yeah.
There's an elite tier at each position. Tight end it happens to be just 5 or 4 or 3, probably 4 if you count Pitts, right? So yeah, Peter's right there. Sorry, Jacob.
Yeah, and that's a good way of looking at it. Like there's a top 1 at quarterback, there's a top 5 at running back, but there's a top 12 at wide receiver. So yes, you get less, but there's 12 of them that can do it. And at tight end, there's 1. We like to think there's 5, but there's basically 1, maybe 2 if you've got Jimmy Graham and Gronk in the league, but mostly there's just 1. So that's the value and also the deficit of wide receiver, right? Because there's more that you can replace it, but that elite tier is a little deeper.
Yeah, and that's why. But like in that elite tier, I want my receivers that are more consistent, like the Allen Robinsons, over that. And I'll take my hits, my big time stuff.
But then
With
he
the,
has no. And I
what's
know
up?
Peter hates this. He doesn't really have a ceiling now. Like his ceiling is what, 25 points, 22 points. I'm pretty sure he didn't break that once last year or the year before.
I don't have those numbers in front of me currently.
Well,
but I
I'm
can
just
look
going to make
as
them
we
up.
talk.
I mean,
Yeah,
that
Who are we
was-
talking
sounds
about?
right.
Allen Robinson.
Okay.
And I love Allen Robinson, but I mean, look, we've talked about this before, just team building. I like guys that have ceilings because anyone can give me 0, not anyone.
Are you more
can-
in on him now? He's got presumably better, because how could it be worse, quarterback? Is that
Yes.
a level? Is that a
I'm
path
more in on
upside?
him, but I'm
There you
not
go.
because everyone else is more in on him too.
Yeah, I was wrong anyway. He scored
Like,
28 points in 27.
If I could release a spell that erased everyone's memory of the Bears draft, and then only I could have Allen Robinson at his new value, and everyone else was still drafting him as like the wide receiver 18 in Dynasty, that's my personal preference. I don't know if that's going to happen.
Well, here's the thing. He's also getting older, and so it's pretty... There's an argument to be made that liking him more now is good, because age Twitter's going to come for us, and as he gets older, people start to fade him more, and it's like, well, I'll still get the one of the few guys we know is actually pretty decent. That's fine by me. So, I mean, your mileage might vary, but he's in an interesting ADP range, put it that way.
Well, let's move a little bit more towards rookie drafts, because everyone's doing a bunch of rookie drafts right now. I've had 4 rookie drafts today going simultaneously. I think Shane's looking at those. He's saying those are rookie numbers. He's in 38.
What the fuck is that 4? Like, I'm in so many that I don't even know I'm in them until I get the email. I'm like, oh, okay.
And just if anyone's like Shane and has a problem, just know that there's supports out there. Anyway, so
We start a Dynasty rookie draft helpline.
this is a Dynasty intervention.
It is. I think we should have like a little number scrolling across the bottom. Just put Shane's phone number down there.
I don't think we got an answer, by the way. Does anyone think Terrence Marshall is going to rise or lower by around in ADP this time?
Yeah, let's do a quick yes or no from Shane and Chase, and then
he's not going to rise.
Yeah, he will.
Rise.
Yes, he will, because Robbie Anderson's going to be gone. His ADP is going to go up.
Yeah, but Robbie Anderson has a low BMI. He doesn't count.
Oh, the 20
that didn't happen.
Here's the thing. So Terrence Marshall's not going to put up big numbers in year 1. He's just not, unless Robbie Anderson or DJ Moore and Christian McCaffrey go down.
Don't need big numbers to rise in ADP.
He just
though.
needs to show that.
Which is also why it's a fair. I think
Look at Miles Sanders.
Look at Michael Pittman. He did nothing, and he's risen in ADP. He didn't even exist.
He's within the same round though, which I think is about the same thing.
But
He didn't
But I'm
drop.
just saying the bar is low.
Michael Pittman also has the added benefit of you can believe that he'll be the one.
Because we didn't see. Yeah, you didn't see him.
T.Y. Hilton is old as dust. Whereas as long as DJ Moore and Christian McCaffrey are in Carolina, which is probably at least the rest of their careers, the best Marshall could ever be on that team is the third target. Which that's fine, but you're just I don't see him rising. So anyway, that's my
as long as Joe Brady's offensive coordinator there, they can still tie it to Michael Thomas, and as long as that story exists, it's going to be there, and it's going to still almost like handicap Terrence Marshall's I guess glory upside. Like you're still going to sit there and you're still going to see like Terrence Marshall never achieved what he wants.
Not Terrace.
Whatever.
Terry Marshall.
He's never going to achieve what people expect him to achieve. Like he's never going to hit that.
Well, you're saying he's not going to be Michael Thomas? I agree. I don't think he's going to be Michael Thomas.
And people are going to still always raise the bar for him, and they're never going to end up hitting that bar. It's never.
I don't think that's the bar. I have him in my Twitter bet. I don't think he's going to be Michael Thomas. I think he's going to be a really good number 2 wide receiver. Who's going to be nice.
You're not all of Twitter. You're not all of Twitter.
I mean, I'm like the president. I think I am the Terrace Marshall hype machine. I think that is actually me. I'm pretty sure I am.
It's going to get higher and higher and higher.
I hope so. I hope it gets higher and higher in his ADP for a year so that I can win that bet with Peter with unspecified rewards.
I find this enjoyable because I spent a lot of the offseason just like single-handedly fighting Terrence Marshall Twitter, and it's nice to see it tearing itself down. It's not like I now don't have to be part of it. You're all in fighting. I like it.
It's all right. Just remember, it's Terrace Marshall. It's Terrace Marshall, and it's Myles Gaskin, not Myles Gaskins.
You don't have to remember his name after this season.
Something that I think is interesting about Terrence Marshall is that I am not fighting film grinders on Terrence Marshall. And right now, his ADP, I think, is getting into a really interesting range where he could be a value. It's nerds who disagree with me. Analytics profilers disagree with me on Terrence Marshall. Anyone that I ask who I honestly have experience with,
the film writers hate me. Yeah.
And they're like, nah. So this is purely coming from speculation about his numbers. And it's not that should make it more or less interesting, but I think sometimes we get the wrong idea is had about Terrence Marshall. And it's not that his film's great and numbers don't like him. It's actually that some people like his numbers more than others. And that's the argument on him.
Yeah, well, it's. I mean, for anyone that doesn't know, and Peter and I have had this debate, so feel free to check it on Twitter. But I mean, the thing with Terrence Marshall is a very odd profile analytically, where basically, if you look per game, his profile analytically looks very good, and if you don't look per game, it looks very bad. and he has this issue.
Or you can truncate the seam. Matt Freeman, one of the smartest people and most popular people in the market on this, he says truncate the season instead.
Yeah, and that's where I'm at with him too.
I would say that sounds to me, because it is what it is. It's like he had 3 great games in a 7-game sample last year, and those 3 great games are what you're betting on. Like, he had 3 good games, but I'm pretty sure all of these prospects have 3 good games in their college time. It's just that it happened to happen this last year, and people that value the last year and the fact that there was a pandemic kind of really want to go in on that. But I'm not at a certain point. I'll bet on those 3 games, just not above Elijah Moore.
I want to push back on you quick, and I don't want to spend the whole rest of the time on this because I want to get into some of the rookie trends. I know Shane has to go, but I do want to get you with here. So this is my issue with it, and you mentioned the COVID season. Like, this isn't an issue where he got hurt. This isn't an issue where we're looking at a sample of a larger season that he played. Like, he started from week 1 and he played the first 7 games. And yeah, I mean, like anyone, right? In any season, you're going to have big games that influence and other games and whatever. If he had played the entire season, we have no idea what it would have been. What I'm pretty sure it wouldn't have been is he catches 0 passes, right? Like I think we can assume that's not the case.
Here's the thing.
So to me, it's like, what are we going to do? Are we going to just have? Are we going to have this season where he only played 7 games? And for anyone that doesn't know, he then opted out of the season after that 7 games. Are we going to just take that out of the whole season? Or are we going to look at the portion of the games that he played? And to me, it's the least imperfect solution.
Yeah, great. My problem is I don't think about it that way at all. I look at past prospects and who's broken out, because they're relatively rare and there is commonality, and none of them suffer from this. The other thing is, if you go per game, and why per game really isn't the answer, what you're saying is, yeah, he wouldn't have had 0 receptions, but also the team totals would have increased, and that's never accounted for in team game, in per game. Like, you don't increase and therefore it's an inaccurate imaginary stat that way. If you truncate the season, that's fine, but that comes back to betting on the 3 games. I think the most positive argument is the year before he did get injured, and he had some positive signs before he got injured. And so that's where the variance comes. That's more of a DK Metcalf argument. He was going to do it and got injured, and it struggled. And that's why I will draft him. And I think the smarter people are probably right, but it's still like, there's no example of it, and where I'm not a genius and I don't know anything to look for that definitely guarantees or says this person has talent. I'm just looking for the wake of it around him, and there's no wake around him. That is because he was injured and then 2020, but I can't pretend it's there when it's not. That's the other thing I would add to that. Yeah, it is unfair, but it's also unfair to therefore say he did it because he didn't do it. And the other thing is, when you truncate the season, and I rarely get to this point, but you're all being quiet, so foolish you. And if we do truncate the season and we do per game it, he's still below average.
That's only receiving yards. That's if you don't count touchdowns.
No,
right?
His yards per team pass attempt is below average in that age for a wide receiver to then go and he's having a below average season because it was actually just 3 games in 7.
That's only on yards. That's excluding touchdowns.
Exactly. If we go for touchdowns, but again, you don't bet on touchdowns in NFL statistics. Why would we do it in a 7-game sample in a college season where there's a global pandemic, when we know from the NFL production that happened, defenses were on the back foot, not offenses. Yeah, defenses.
No, but it's market share.
He was scoring mega touchdowns,
share,
which are highly variance, not indicative of talent in the life. And we're like, oh, so that I can't blame. Anyway, there's reasonable suspicion that Terrence Marshall is better than his numbers look. I'm honestly, there's too many smart people that say that. It's just, I'm not betting on it above Elijah Moore. That's what I'm saying.
Dude, Terrence Marshall is 100% a wide receiver 1 because Sam Darnold's the quarterback. All right, ready to move on?
Yeah, I got so next up, rookie drafts.
Yes.
I want to hit this one first. Draft trends. Who's going earlier than expected? Stop fucking drafting Michael Carter in the top of the second round. What the fuck, people? Come on.
Oh, it's not just him because my person is Trey Sermon.
Yeah, no.
But Trey Sermon. Okay, here's the
difference. Give you a
difference.
draft that I was in last night.
Yeah, they're the two.
Because if I was in a draft last night and I took Travis Etienne 1-8, and then Javonta Williams went 1-9, Michael Carter 1-10, Trey Sermon 1-11. Shane, go.
What the fuck? Okay, so Trey Sermon, I can understand. I can understand the narrative, right? He ended up he's a round 3 pick, right? So he's still got day 2 capital.
Is it a coincidence he's the bigger one?
He's no. And he's on a much better offense that we've seen running backs producing, right?
And have you heard they traded up for him? That shows they really want him.
And they traded up for him, which actually there is a correlation there.
Oh, okay.
I forget who talked about it. JJ Zacharyson talks about that all the time. Trading when you trade up for a running back, there's actually a correlation.
It's not a negative sign, at least.
No, it's not bad.
So those are good things. So I can see. Look, and I took Sermon at like 111, 112 in one draft. I didn't feel great about it. But if you're taking Michael Carter at 205, go fuck yourself. Anything like you should not be drafting him. Like, dude, first of all, I don't even know that he beats out LaMichael Pirine on that.
Hey, Ty Johnson.
What did Michael Carter ever do in college? What did he do that all of a sudden we think he's good? He was small and slow.
Yeah, but that's not the definition of good. Again, I need this list you've got of who was good and bad.
Okay.
He was good on a per attempt basis. He was producing yards efficiently at a significantly high volume, but he wasn't a bit of a timeshare, and he has more of a receiving skill set displayed in college. That's it.
But we were just talking about taking pockets of games, and he only had. Let me get the game logs here. He only had like 3 good games.
But we don't have a very large sample of running backs that profile like Carter that become RB1s. Like, there's lots of RB2s. But if we're shooting for RB1 upside, which to me we should always be shooting for upside, like where is this picture of a bunch of small, slow running backs? And here we go. Let's get this question.
Wait. I actually want to hold off on this question because we actually have this question coming up in our sections with the hot draft point. So let's finish what we're talking about now. But I do want to let Husker know that we're going to answer his question very shortly. So sitting there and looking at, like, first off, you have 2 different running backs that are in almost the same exact situation because it's the same exact coaching staffs, right? They're going to use running back by committee. They're going to use the hot hand. I just don't understand how either one of them are going to be relevant, like, moving forward. Yeah, Trey Sermon might have a little bit of a longer contract with Raheem Mostert, being what?
He's going to be cut in he's going to be cut in 3 months.
No,
Sermon
not 3 months.
No, Mostert. He saves $3.5 million on the cap. He's not making it. He's not going to be a 49er in September. I'll bet anyone that right now.
I'll bet you that. We'll do something. We'll come up with something. You come up with the bet.
I will.
We'll take that.
Okay.
And I'll do it on the show.
Shanahan is his name. He uses running back by committees, not by his choice. It's by default because every running back he has on that roster is made of fucking China. You know what I mean? Like, he tries to run one of them out there, and then they just something in their body explodes. He's like, all right, it's going to be Mostert. And then his arm explodes. And it's like, all right, I guess it's Jeff Wilson. And then his ankle explodes. And it's like, fucking Jarek McKinnon? I guess we'll try him a few weeks. And then, it's Jarek McKinnon.
Why did he dump Breeder? Because that guy get playing no matter what happened to him.
Yeah, he's the best. Peter, are you a believer in the hot hand? Because I hate the hot hand narrative. It's probably my least favorite narrative on Twitter. Do you believe that coaches just play the hot hand and that you can't get beyond that?
I don't know. It
exists. They admitted that it exists. He literally says it.
It sounds like that's the thing they say to explain decisions as well. Like, I don't know. We know enough about what's going on in anyone's head to really guess. I imagine they're approaching it that way if they say it that often, but also just don't listen to coaches. You're better off. And yeah, if you don't have a Christian McCaffrey or a Saquon Barkley, it's probably all kind of a semi-hot hand situation, or a James Robinson. Obviously, the Jaguars really suck. They really suck as an organization. But yeah, and I think the answer is everything's relative. There's no fucking Christian McCaffrey in this draft. So what the fuck do you want me to do, Shane?
Here's my thing with Trace.
Draft someone not in this draft.
No, I'd rather you draft a wide receiver that has better draft capital than him. Because there's wide receivers that have first, second, and third round draft capital that people are purposely going, no, I need a running back. Well, you still need a running back. You just drafted one and you still need one. So you defeated the whole purpose and you wasted a pick. And I think you're kind of stupid for doing it.
Shane, would you rather have Michael Carter or a wide receiver named Brown? So Carter, De'Ami Brown, or Amon-Ra St. Brown?
I'll take De'Ami Brown. Third round, right?
Yeah. Michael Carter or Kadarius Toney?
Kadarius Toney.
Michael Carter or Tutu Atwell?
Oh, now you're fucked.
Fuck, I'm trading out. Michael Carter's still on the board, so somebody's going to. Oh my god! I can't believe he's still sitting there. I'm going to trade Shane a first so I can get Michael Carter.
That is actually the answer with this class. Just trade up for Chase, or trade the fuck out. And the answer is yes, you need running backs, but running backs are much more likely to have an impact early, like a fantasy relevant impact, instead of just having a good relative season at wide receiver. And their value immediately skyrockets. I was just trying to quickly pull up 2020 ADP, but I haven't vamped long enough. I was trying to look. Antonio Gibson, right? That's a reasonable ceiling for one of these guys, an outlier. We're not expecting it, but they could be exceptionally relevant for a small segment of the season. Like he's now he was drafted. Okay.
I'm gonna fight you, Peter. I'm gonna fight you because here's the thing. Antonio Gibson. Antonio Gibson is 229
conversation
and runs
from
for
evaluation of a position to a player, and that's a fish move. Like we're talking about the upside in Dynasty terms of running back value. Yes, it does in the individual context, but we're talking about why were you taking bets on running backs? We're talking why we're taking bets on running backs instead of higher drafted wide receivers. That's a positional
Shane.
dynasty
Don't
back.
put me in there.
Yeah, and I was answering Shane, and you're trying to jump in, and I'm explaining why you shouldn't. That's the answer. A running back that shows anything year one is more likely to increase further in ADP because we desperately need running backs, and there's a smaller tier of the elite tier, and so we keep talking ourselves into this guy could be in that elite tier, and that's why. It's not because we should, and also wide receivers bottom out at a higher rate. That's the other thing, Shane. I mean, I love these wide receivers, but they bottom out quicker, and we have to hold on to them longer, and they have less impact sooner. Now, to your question, AJ, fucking Antonio Gibson's already dead. He died towards the end of last year. Like, why are you still hanging on? I have to give up James Robinson. You have to give up Antonio Gibson.
Wait, why don't you give up Antonio Gibson?
What?
Why do I have to give up Antonio Gibson?
No,
because they already gave up on him. They gave up on him at the end of last year. They're like, nah, screw it. We're going to throw out J.D. McKissick. Like, that's the guy that they were giving more opportunity to do.
I'm not giving up on Antonio Gibson.
Then you should. Trade him.
Get out of here.
I can't. If I get into this argument, it's going to last for an hour. So I'm not even going to indulge in this. It will literally, like, Peter, you and I could have a whole entire show about this for an hour. I'm not going to indulge in this, but let's go ahead and hop into the next segment.
Just so you know, we're not only.
Right, and I'm
not talking about Antonio Gibson that long.
I'm going to bounce so I can eat dinner prior to my next engagement. Peter, I love you. If I'd known that you were coming on tonight, if someone had mentioned that to me, I would have.
I told you a week ago.
You wouldn't have come.
I know. I told you a week ago.
You did not tell me a week ago, and if you did, it's your fault for not putting it on my calendar. All right, gentlemen, have a great night.
See you, Shane.
Shane, have a good one. I love you, buddy. What's the next? Actually, Peter, you haven't given a trend yet. Peter, what's your biggest draft trend that annoys you? Who's going too high, other than, of course, Terrence Marshall?
I don't know. There's anything that's annoying me. I've come full circle on ADP and just kind of accepting it. It is what it is. What's annoying me about this ADP? Nothing really. I think the Kyle Pitts debate's an interesting one this year, and so is the Rashad Bateman's one.
Well, let's have the Kyle Pitts one first, because that's a big question mark. I think. Well, I'll tell you what. I've seen it all. I've seen Kyle Pitts fall to the 1-8, and I've seen Kyle Pitts drafted this morning at the 101 in Superflex. So, where do you think is acceptable for Kyle Pitts to go? And I think there's a difference between, like, I would take him here and I understand it. Like, what's the highest where you see Kyle Pitts' name pop up at the screen and you're not, laughing at the person?
I'm not laughing. Again, you can do what you want with your own draft pick. Okay. I think if it feels good, you should do it. Just do it based on what you think, not what someone else thinks. And then it's no laughter required, or at least you won't be affected by other people's laughter. Well, that's my experience. 104. I want if it's one quarterback, I want Harris off the board. I want Chase definitely off the board. Probably ETN, and then you're talking about Kyle Pitts being a fair pick for me personally, but that's mostly a value argument rather than I'm expecting him to be Travis Kelce. Like if there was a perfect tight end prospect, Kyle Pitts would be it. But the guys we're actually hoping he is were not perfect in that way. That's the weird thing about Mr. Pitts.
What if they do move him to wide receiver, hypothetically? I don't think that's going to happen. Let's just say they move to wide receiver, and all of a sudden, all the fantasy leagues across all the lands end up taking away his tight end designation. Does he completely fall off the board for you?
Isn't a problem for me.
So you play him at wide receiver at the same rate you play him at tight end?
And no, I'm not drafting him at the same rate as other people. I wouldn't know what to make of him because he has terrible wide receiver stats. I mean, how do I evaluate that? Yeah, so I wouldn't know what to do. But he would drop for me probably if he's not at tight end eligible. Then he's probably not a first round pick. Well, it's late first round maybe.
Okay, that makes a little more sense.
It's so hard to do because like his market shares and stuff aren't good, but like they're not asking Elijah Moore to block, right? Like at the time. So it's like how do I hold it against him? Like he was playing tight end, right? His stats for a tight end are fantastic. So
does Pitts play traditional? I think he's more of a receiving tight end. He's Eric Ebron. He's Mr. Reed.
Yeah,
Jordan Reed. He's that kind of tight end.
Gesicki, I believe, doesn't even line up in the tight end position anymore.
Gesicki isn't a tight end.
But he's still called a tight end. But I guess they're still asking for the designation, and he could end up holding out in order to get more money later on in his career if they designate him as wide receiver. If they trade Julio Jones, this is the conversation that's happening. So there is actually a chance they could move over to wide receiver by the start of the season for fantasy leagues and not be known as a tight end.
I don't think that would happen. I think they'd go Tanyan. I think they would just give him wide receiver / tight end.
Yeah,
because
at least
to me,
fantasy,
because he's a tight end now, like if you draft him, maybe in future redraft leagues, but if I draft him at like the 1-5, because I'm getting essentially a wide receiver who fills tight end, and then all of a sudden they take away that tight end eligibility. I mean, that's the whole point, right? Like if TJ Hawkinson was a wide receiver, he would be completely useless. Right, like it'd be like, oh, he's just another wide receiver for
Atlanta's got no reason to change his designation. He would have more negotiating power, like you just mentioned, as a wide receiver. So they've got no reason to do that. They have plenty of good wide receivers. They probably want to play him in that receiving tight end role. Like, there's no reason for them to change his designation. And fantasy players would have a fucking riot if they changed it. So I think it's.
They'd burn down.
I mean, it's not possible, but I don't think it's.
Prior to the season, I didn't think that was I actually thought it was going to be a real thing. But they just extended Travis Kelce on a major contract. Kittle got a major contract. So now it is actually a thing as to where tight ends are getting paid. But I mean, dude,
Travis Kelce's getting
he could have held out and actually, not actually showed up to camp if he got paid as a tight end versus a wide receiver, or at least the contract itself. But like you said, it's the rookie contract. He can demand that for the second one. So it doesn't really make sense for Atlanta to change it.
Peter, you mentioned the Bateman debate. The debatement. Some are saying the debatement. And I recently wrote a piece. I'm pretty bullish on Bateman overall, and I'm bullish on sort of the possibility of change in the Baltimore offense. I actually don't know where you stand on this one. So
I don't know where I stand on this.
Where are you on the show sheet?
I don't know. Peter mentioned it was an interesting debate, and so I thought it was an interesting topic. Where do you think is an acceptable place for Bateman among the wide receivers? And then how about after that, we'll get to Husker's question.
I believe in all the upside for Bateman. I love all those arguments, but I can't. Honestly, I'm comfortable drafting Bateman where he is. He's like rookie wide receiver 4 right now, which is too high. This is a really big one, but it's a big conversation because you should draft for upside. That's the default. And Bateman doesn't have it because of his landing spot. And while I love the hyperbole and the potential of arguing that, the head coach has a 670-yard passing attempt season in his history. And the idea he could get, but it's highly unlikely, is the thing. So what I default to is I want a good player on a good team with a low ceiling above a player I don't think is likely to be good in a better situation. Like, that doesn't make sense to me. And so I'm drafting Bateman with the expectation, basically in fantasies, Marcus Brown. I mean, that's not what we want. That's not what you're aiming for. But he's been good in the NFL. He's still on the team. He hasn't Laquan Treadwell. He's a good NFL player. And he has had stretches of fantasy relevance.
He's a bad
why is he not? I mean, I know that feels good to say.
He's 96 in true catch rate, and he's 78th in contested catch rate. He can't do it.
That isn't measuring it, apparently, because good players don't hold the job for that long or that kind of market share, even on a small
But he didn't hold the job. They just added 3 wide receivers this offseason.
They're adding to their passing offense with no...
After they adjusted the play calling, because they tried 3 different styles of play calling this past year. They tried it. They ran 3 different play styles. And I can sit there, I can break it down for you. We can go and we can actually look at, the formations, everything like that. After they got to their final formation, which kind of reverted back to his 2019 form, Marquise Brown was able to see single coverage because Lamar Jackson was running more often on designed runs. And all of a sudden, Marquise Brown was open. They hit him, and he finished up as wide receiver 13. Wide receiver 13 in PPR for the last, 6 weeks or whatever the season. Maybe it was 5 weeks. But either way, he still was a valid asset. He was scoring touchdowns. And I know that touchdowns aren't indicative of future success. But at the same time, you still have high opportunity or high value opportunities in terms of the passing game. And as long as you have those high value opportunities and he got them, he's going to be a valuable asset in this offense.
But it's over now.
Bateman is going to have to see volume.
And he will, because good players draw volume. Like Marquise Brown was a weak profile wide receiver. He didn't break out till late. He came in the NFL. He's had some success. But he's been a limited player. Like, he's a very, very good deep threat wide receiver. He struggles in contested catch situations, which shouldn't shock us, right? Like, look at him, right?
Yeah.
Like, that shouldn't surprise us. He's a limited player.
That's overblown too. To me, Lamar Jackson's fine. I think the problem I've got with this, Jacob, is we both agree I think Bateman's a great player. As prospects go, I think he's a second wide receiver barely in this class. Like, he's barely below Chase for me. I think he's phenomenal. But we're starting with something that we want to happen, and then we're finding reasons that it could happen, and that's backwards reasoning. The most reasonable expectation is the Baltimore offense is not going to balloon up to 600 passing attempts. Could it?
Yeah, well, that's crazy.
Yes, it definitely could. But if it's at 500, he would have to get, again, around 25% of the market share, which is a reasonable expectation for a good player. Yeah. But I think Brown's shown he's going to have a role, and they could both do it. But then it's still less than 100 receptions. And even in a 500 pass attempt team, we don't get top 24 wide receivers from that, but we do get good players with fantasy relevant stretches. And I would rather make that bet, considering there's only going to be about 3 on average in any draft class to hit that higher ceiling. I'm just going to take a player I'm pretty confident is a good player. And there is an outsized, unlikely expectation that he could have a higher ceiling. Maybe it goes head coach instead of offensive coordinator. And I think that's just as unlikely as, say, Terrence Marshall being good. But at least I know the floor is this is a good player who's going to hold his job. He's going to have fantasy relevant stretches, and I believe in the talent, and that's the bet I'm making. And I think there's probably one guy with the actual upside we want in the top 5 wide receivers right now, and that's Jamar Chase. If you're asking me if any of the others have it, the answer is no. But at least for Bateman, the answer is no, because the volume's probably not going to be there, and so I make that bet. That's what I'm saying. It's not that he's not capable, he's not good, he won't draw volume. It's just based on what we know of how and again, it's fucking reality. Weird things happen, and if that happened, I'm in on Bateman. I think Bateman's a guy, but reasonably, it's probably not going to happen. It's awkward.
I mean, it's tough, right? Like, I know I want to be clear. Like, I'm not, when he went to Baltimore, I wasn't like, that's my dream landing spot. Like, obviously I would rather him, in Green Bay or Tennessee or somewhere that passes the ball. Well, Tennessee doesn't pass a whole ton, but anyways, here's my case for Bateman. Like, personally, I think I still have him wide receiver 2. I had him wide receiver 2 coming in. He's still wide receiver 2. If someone wants to take Smith over him, that's fine. I don't like Smith's profile. I don't like that he wasn't an early declare. I don't like that he didn't break out until 3rd year. I don't weight senior stats very highly. Like, to me, everything was in a senior year, and in my process, I don't count senior year for a whole heck of a lot. So for people whose process, because good players usually don't play in the senior year. So I don't care about a senior year.
1,250 yards in his junior year.
Yeah, that's fine. Like, he's not a bad prospect, but if you lop off the senior year, then you're looking at basically truncated season.
Wait. You're looking at 2-2 outlaw numbers. I got you. I understand.
No, Tutu has actually a much better profile because he broke out at 18 and he was a monster with 1,250 yards at 19. Like
that's debatable.
But my issue with Smith, okay, but that's the same thing though, Peter. Like, we don't know how much the teammates matter. We don't know if it matters. Like, we don't know that. So Smith has good excuses, but I'm not like, I know that Bateman has a great profile. I don't know if he's going to be good in the NFL, but we know that he has a profile that matches with profiles that are historically predictive of success. The question is whether that success can happen in Baltimore, and of course, whether he's good. Because you can have the best profile in the world, you might suck. You can have the worst profile in the good, and the worst profile in the world, you might be great. Like, we don't know. It's a range of outcomes. But to me, looking at Bateman, strictly from the profile point of view, I'm with you, Peter. I think he is number 2 in the class, and to me, he's very, not that far behind Jamar Chase. Now, landing spot wise, definitely pushes him pretty far behind Jamar Chase. But here's sort of the best, well, not the best case scenario, but like the reasonable case scenario for how it can work out in Baltimore. You look at last year, over the last 2 years, which is the 2 years Lamar's been the full-time starter, they've averaged 212 pass attempts to wide receivers. I will admit, if that continues, it is virtually impossible for Bateman to be a wide receiver 1, because as much as I'm not a Marquise Brown fan, he's not going to, be removed from the face of the earth. And they have other players. But if you look at teams that invested a lot of draft capital or resources into wide receivers, those numbers change. Like, Denver went out, they drafted Judy, they drafted Hamler. Their pass attempts went up. Their pass attempt percentage to wide receivers went up majorly, both over 10%. Buffalo last year, they had Stephon Diggs. And no, I don't think Bateman's going to be Stephon Diggs in year 1, of course. But their pass percentage goes way up. Their pass percentage to wide receivers goes way up. If you just look at those numbers, you can pretty easily see a scenario where, no, Baltimore doesn't get to 600 pass attempts, but they can get to 500 pass attempts. And that's the same range that Minnesota is in, that Tennessee is in. And they have players that were taking in the top 6 in redraft this year. So to me, it's not remotely unheard of that if Bateman is as good as the ceiling outcome within his profile, that he can have a 25% target share. And 25% target share to 500 attempts, like, we're working with something. That's at least low-end wide receiver 1 level if he's efficient. And Lamar has been a decently efficient quarterback. Like, he's not a high volume passer, but he's not a bad passer. That's been disproven when you.
Well, here's the thing. What you're describing is what I said, but with less hope for the ceiling. Because what you just described is where I was kind of saying he could reach. That's
literally
the
what
low
you're
end
saying.
top 24 wide receiver, maybe, but definitely a good player. And that's Devontae Smith has a better opportunity to hit a higher ceiling than that. It's not that I think Smith's better. He's got a better opportunity, and the production is there, despite the fact that, it's not as ideal as Bateman, to suggest he can more likely transition to his skill set to the NFL. And so there's a larger ceiling with as much reason to believe he's good. So I do have Smith above Bateman right now.
That's fair.
But the other thing is, like, I don't have to. Like, the ADP is kind of crazy right now, but I'm getting Bateman at the end of the first. Like, that's where I'm getting him. It's after Smith. It's after Rondale Moore.
That's
and
crazy.
So it's not really been a worry for me, fortunately. But I like literally to deal with this because I have strong conflicting emotions on Bateman. I fully feel you. I went back to 2019 and looked at my ranks, and like the problem is there's no AJ Brown or DK Metcalf in this class, who 2 players I had above him in that year. Because the best corollaries are Terrence Marshall and Jalen Waddle. And I kind of could see it with Jalen Waddle, but definitely we've had that conversation with Terrence Marshall. And then I have Andy Isabella up there. And he's another one that you could compare to Bateman. The production's there. The landing spot is better. Smaller guy. And so it's a similar corollary. I think Bateman's better than Isabella in college, but I mean, it's kind of a threshold thing. So they have the tick. And so I actually drafted Isabella above Marcus Brown. I just don't want to make that mistake again. So, yeah, I have Smith above him, but I love Bateman, and I've had no trouble drafting him. Like, unfortunately, what ends up in my head is I'm going to end up with too little Smith, because I think he's good. I think he really could take advantage of that opportunity. But because I want Bateman, I'm ending up not going up to get Smith, and that could be a T. Higgins problem. I actually ended up intentionally going out and getting T. Higgins because I knew I liked him, but I like players below him and I like players above him, so he was in this weird ADP range. And so that's my concern with this class. Like, I don't get enough of these good players that I like because I'm okay taking Bateman later.
I think this segues really nicely.
Wait.
Because
I just need to know, who do you think's going to end up being taller by, like, let's say 2025, Tutu Atwell or Rashad Bateman? Because Rashad Bateman's shrinking at a, like, just a historical rate. Like, we've never seen anybody shrink like this. He went from 6'3" in high school to 6'2" in college. Now he's 6 foot. Like, what is happening over there? And then let's get to this question.
Yeah, so I think Peter segued perfectly. I don't know if it was intentional or
You're
not.
not going to answer that question?
No, I am. I'm saying he segued perfectly to the question.
Okay.
Or do you want me to answer your dumb who's going to be taller question? Is that what you
I
want me
want
to
to know
answer?
who you think is going to be taller. Tutu Atwell in, like, 2024.
I think probably Bateman, but, well, you know, everything
as
exists
far
in
as
a
I
range of
know,
outcomes.
by the way, as far as I know, Tutu Atwell's the only player who went out and lost weight before measuring in at his pro day. Like, he's the only one who was like, you know what I need to do? Trim down.
Wait,
like, he was measured
so he's losing
earlier
weight
and he
and
was
Rashad
thicker,
Bateman
and
is
then his
losing
pro
height.
day comes along and he's like 10 pounds lighter. And I'm like, no! Like, why would you do that? Like, don't fast. Do the
It's
opposite.
like your speed score was doomed anyway. Like, what are you trying to achieve?
Tutu Atwell is going to be 120 pounds, and Rashad Bateman's going to be 5'2" by 2025. That's what we have come up with.
The curious case of Benjamin Bateman. Anyhow, Husker has been asking this question or waiting on this one for a while, and I think, like I said, I think Peter segued into it perfectly because I'm having, I guess, well, kind of a similar experience, Peter, where I love Bateman, and I'll say this: I don't love Smith, but I actually like Smith where he's going. Like I'm very content with it. You know, after the running backs and after the main quarterback stuff, I have no problem with Smith. And I should note, I have no problem with Smith as wide receiver too. Like, to me, him and Bateman are kind of interchangeable, and it's after that I have more issues. But one of the reasons I'm not getting that much of either is that Husker asked 12-team Superflex, tight end premium, start up, linear, rookie draft. If you had the 111, would you trade up or stand pat? And that's the thing for me. And I'm going to add another element to this, which is trade out and trade back. I'm just not standing pat. Like, I had a lot of 110s, 111s. And at least for my process, I'm either trading up from that pick because I always have like 3 second-round picks. It's just generally how I play. So I'm happy to sacrifice one of those that was earmarked, you know, for Seth Williams, who's now going to be a special teams gunner. And, you know, attaching that
sucks, right? This class
it sucks so much.
Bottom sucks.
So I had all these late twos, and I'm like Tylan Wallace, Seth Williams, you know, and now I'm like,
I tell you what, that's the answer. Go up and then get Taylor Wallace later, because I guess maybe if they're going to expand the passing game, maybe it's Taylor Wallace. Who knows? Sorry, carry on.
Anyway, carry on, Johnson.
Carry on.
Anyway, carrying on, Johnson. So my answer is, I'm just going up. I'm going to draft. For me, it's Travis Etienne, but that's a whole other debate. If you prefer Najee Harris, of course, go get Najee Harris. Even Javonta Williams, if you prefer him. To me, I'm trading up. I'm getting them. Or if I do end up on the clock at 111, personally, I would rather just get a 22 first or a 23 first because I think there's a much better chance at getting a top impact player than what you're hoping for from Bateman or Smith or Waddle. What about you folks? If you're on the clock at 111 in that situation, and you know, I think 111, you're probably looking at maybe Mac Jones. Otherwise, you're probably looking at some combo of Devonta Smith, Rashad Bateman, Jalen Waddle, wide receivers named Moore. Pick any more you want. More. Yeah, what are you doing? Are you? What's your goal? Are you trying to trade up? Are you trying to trade down? Are you trying to trade out? Or are you pumped up to press the button?
The way I play rookie drafts is I either want to trade up or I want to trade out. I trade back only with a view to trading out completely. Like, I trade back and then eventually I don't have any rookie picks left. I'm not trying to trade back in a rookie draft. In a startup draft, sure. But so that's my answer. I trade up. Go get the player that you want, because it sucks getting so many JJ Arcega-Whiteside values at value. Like, yeah, awesome. And then I have to think, but that wasn't the guy I wanted. Yeah, but I got him so cheaply. But it didn't matter. Like, so my answer is, if I'm looking for a wide receiver in a draft, even in a superflex, I'm going to go get Chase. If I'm looking for a running back, for me personally, I'm going to go get Harris. And if I can't, then I can't. So I'm looking to trade out. And if no one will trade me out at a good value, then yes, I'll end up taking whoever's there. In Superflex, it's a little more awkward because at the end of the first round, you're really looking at a mid-first round pick and everything else. And so you're actually already up, technically. But if you're looking for a quarterback in Superflex, it's the same philosophy. I'm going to go up and I'm going to get whoever my favorite quarterback is. And where I don't have those, I don't know what to tell you. Trevor Lawrence, I guess. Yeah, sure.
I've heard he's good.
I've heard he's generational, as far as I know. And Justin Fields, I have him as my quarterback too, because I just didn't see a reason to change it after they stopped playing football. So yeah, I'm still stuck on Justin Fields. But that my typical rookie draft philosophy, which is always subject to change, is I want to go get the player that I want. And if I'm looking for a wide receiver, I'm going to go get Chase. That's the answer in this class.
Yeah.
If I'm looking for a running back, it's Harris. And after that, if I can't get them, then there's a falling value of my ranks. Like, okay, well, who else is left? Well, I like Rashad Bateman, so I'll go where I need to go to get Bateman. Or I'll get out.
Chase, what about you on that one? And also, you can answer both these at once. Mike Valverde asks, where are you drafting Najee in a super flex? So what's your strategy on Husker's question? If you're at the 111, are you with Peter and I? You're trying to do a trade up, or do you have a different strategy? And where are you drafting Najee in a super flex?
So it's kind of weird for me. So I invested really heavily in 2020. Like I literally traded everything that I have for 2020. I still traded back. I still have a ton of picks, but now I'm trading back so I can preserve my 2020 class for some of the sleepers that still have a chance to put things out. Henry Ruggs. But sitting there and looking at it, I'm just kidding. I know you guys would hate this. I know you guys would hate that. I knew that was coming. I'm gonna
I made mistakes too. I also drafted Henry Ruggs.
I just got 6 unfollows on Twitter. Minimum six unfollows on Twitter. But sitting there and looking at it, I'm sitting there and actually not trying to move from that spot. I kind of like this little sweet spot with Jalen Waddle, Devonta Smith. I just like to take the best player available. Javonta Williams is another guy that's kind of slipping. Normally he falls a little bit earlier than that, but I saw one draft where Javonta Williams didn't go until 201 in Superflex. So I'd like to one of these guys. If they don't have if let's just say your league is just stacked quarterback, everybody's very evenly just spread apart by their quarterback positions, then I would probably end up I'd probably end up taking that skill position player. If quarterback position falls to me, that's where I'm trading away. I don't want Mac Jones. I don't want Zach Wilson. I don't want that. It's just not enticing me. You're going to have a mid-round quarterback. I'd rather take a Kellen Mond. I would rather take a Kellen Mond, who is falling way too far in drafts, who is going to probably be the starter for the Minnesota Vikings, who probably has the same upside as I saw you. No, you don't think he has the same upside as Mac Jones?
No. I like Kellen Mond as a decent, put him on the back of your roster and anything can happen, but Mac Jones was drafted to kind of maybe be a quarterback, and Mond was just, hey, we got a pick and Mond's on the board. Okay.
No, there's no
expectation for him.
Third, but it was the second pick of the third.
Yeah.
Actually, Mac Jones is really weird because I don't see how New England, it's New England, so I'm never going to see what New England's going to do, but you can't expect Mac Jones to learn a Cam Newton offense.
No.
So doesn't it make more sense for them to transform it now than wait a year and then come up with a new offense and then teach it to their rookie quarterback? So it might happen sooner than you'd think, which is unfortunate because I still love Cam Newton in his own special way.
I just feel like Kellen Mond could actually take over a role, be the QB2, and if you can get him in the late,
he could do.
Round, I'd rather have that
evaluation.
I'm with you and I'm against you, Chase. On the Kellen Mond front, I couldn't agree more. Once you get into round 3, the hit rate once the hit rate on wide receivers, running backs is so low, right? Unless you're drafting Tutu Atwell, of course, who's a seven-time Pro Bowler. But aside from him, the hit rate is so low that I'm totally with you because Kellen Mond, it's the easiest way to profit, right? You read a roto blurb one day. It says Kirk Cousins strained a calf at practice, and then you go to your Kirk Cousins owner and say, "Hey, would you like a Kellen Mond for a second-round pick?" And you've already
Dude, the value's insane with Kellen Mond.
To me, it's a perfect example of asymmetrical upside, and I'm all about it. But Zach Wilson, if I'm sitting at the 111 in Superflex and Zach Wilson's on the board, my phone will break because I will smash the button so hard because it's the Justin Herbert corollary. Last year, I was a big dummy. Big dummy. I thought Justin Herbert was going to be bad. But if I was on the clock at 112 and Justin Herbert was there, I'm going, yeah, sounds good to me. Maybe I'm wrong. Turns out I was super wrong, but he's on my roster.
Justin Herbert
This is actually the same side of the same coin. You realize you're both arguing the same side of the same coin here because the thing about Zach Wilson and Kellen Mond is their quarterbacks and Superflex just don't overthink it. That's the. I mean, it's nasty, and I don't want to do it, but like, fuck, Terry Bridgewater still has value at this point. I mean,
but
and the wide receiver that I was dead set on at the end of the first round does not.
Like,
Oh no. Okay. Well, I actually. So here's an interesting one.
Yeah,
that's
the
thing. Have
There's
Zach
a
Wilson.
valuation going on.
I do have Zach Wilson ranked ahead of Najee Harris. I think I'm probably the only person who feels that way in Superflex. But I'm low on Najee Harris. He's so I'll give my answer first, and I won't even defend it because it's going to get shredded first. So Najee Harris, I would draft Najee Harris at the 1.8 in Superflex. Peter and Chase, feel free to go ahead. I know that I'm probably wrong on Harris, and I've accepted it. I'm not even arguing with it. I'll just be wrong on your rosters, and that's fine. Peter, where would you take Najee in Superflex? Because I think Chase looks like he needs a moment.
Well, I've actually got him like just eyeballing it around 105 because I take the 3 quarterbacks. I guess I don't want Trey Lance, but he's there. I want Chase. That's the guy I want in this draft. So I take Chase, and then it's between Pitts and Harris. And I guess I lean running back because I don't play value very well. I'm not a good trader. I definitely don't get in people's DMs well. I mostly just offend people when I try and talk trade. So instead, I'm just probably going to take the starter. But Zach Wilson's interesting because really you should just draft all the quarterbacks. Like even if they bottom out their first year, they'll still be around the same value next year, probably, unless they're that freaking
Rosen.
Who was it?
Rosen.
Unless it's Rosen. That's about it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's awkward to say it will be technically a mistake to take Wilson, but here's the thing: he looks like the star of any Sunny D ad you've ever seen, and I don't know I can do that to myself. Like, since seeing that meme on Twitter, I can't unsee it. I'm sorry. He's just so out of place. And, but you should take the quarterbacks above the skill positions in Superflex. Mainly because all of that is a value for like the top 24 quarterbacks or go ahead of that in a startup draft.
That's where I'm at. But Chase, go for it.
So this is difficult because I like Najee Harris. I was like, please don't end up with the Steelers. Please don't end up with the Steelers. Like the one place I did not want to land was the Steelers. Because of the fact, not because of the offensive line. The offensive line sucks, and that's a big part of it. But because of the fact that Juju Smith-Schuster has 6.5 yards per target. Like that's their short yardage release valve. What the hell is Najee Harris going to do? Is he going to catch passes out of the backfield?
I don't know. He's probably going to get tackled behind the line of scrimmage a lot.
Yeah, not only that, but he's also going to catch maybe 60, and that's where I wanted the value to come in. Maybe 60 like tops. I wanted to hope for 80. I wanted to hope for 80. That's where I wanted. Like I wanted, there's some sort of system similar to what we've seen with the Lions of the past few years and whatnot. But
if you want a running back who might catch 80 passes, can I interest you in Travis Etienne?
No, but. No, I still think that Travis Etienne is going to be very good. And honestly, it's very close now for me between the two. Very close. And people are surprised because he ended up with Jacksonville with James Robinson. I like James Robinson. And I talk about James Robinson still being a value at this point because people are just throwing this on for nothing. I still think that James Robinson is going to be value over the next year. And he's actually going to increase his value to next year, potentially. Not guaranteed, potentially. James Robinson's a player that I want to sell halfway through the year, though. Anyways. Looking at Etienne, his value has possibly gone up because all he needs is a couple of breakaway runs, a couple of big-time plays, and all of a sudden everybody's going to be talking about him. As for Najee Harris, do those big plays ever come? Does he ever get those receptions? There are way too many question marks between Najee Harris and success that I have to ask, and I don't like asking questions when I'm taking a player that early. So for Superflex, he's probably going to be like my 105. Maybe 106.
I will quickly. I want to preface this by saying that you should follow Chase and Peter's advice on Najee Harris, not mine. Their advice is pretty much the advice of all smart people in the industry, and you should probably take Harris 105. Here's where I'm at. If anyone cares about my opinion, and that's you probably shouldn't.
Quarterbacks, to be fair.
To me, like Peter said, your default setting when you enter a Superflex draft should be I'm taking the quarterbacks. Like that should be your default. And then you should be searching for reasons to not do that. And like you should need a lot of reasons to not do that. And to me, like I have no problem taking Jamar Chase ahead of the quarterbacks because I love Chase. He checks every possible box. I also love him on film. I love him on my spreadsheet. I love him in a Bengals uniform. I love him in his sexy shoes on draft night. I love everything about him. I'm all about Jamar Chase. And Etienne is kind of the same way for me. Harris is just, he's not the type of prospect that I gravitate towards. And it's also about how I build my teams. Like, to me, I build my teams very robust at running back. So when I go into my drafts, I usually have 3 running backs already, like 3 top 12 running backs. That's just how I prioritize my teams. So I don't need 2021 immediate starting value. If you need that, like, if I'm on underdog, I'm drafting Najee Harris before Travis Etienne. I'm not a big dum-dum. So to me, I just look at it from a dynasty perspective. The type of running back that I covet, it's pass-catching running backs, it's athletic running backs, it's running backs in good offenses. And to me, like, I have faith in the Jaguars' offense with Trevor Lawrence to be
take it
good
back.
offense.
You do not want that recorded.
No, I do.
You do not want to be on the record saying, I trust the Jaguars. I mean, some of the players on that team, yeah.
Look, I don't trust them. I do not. Here's where I stand, like, on the Etienne thing. Like, it's cognitive dissonance, right? If I was running the Jacksonville Jaguars, would I have picked a running back at pick 25? Heck no. Did I fully expect them to? Yes. Like, I mocked Travis Etienne, Jaguars, 25. And it excites the crap out of me fantasy football-wise.
Yeah, but that's because you know it's a terrible pick. Front office.
You can be a bad front office and have a fun offense. Like, right? I mean, I'm a Colts fan. The Grigson era, we had a very fun offense. Very fun offense. Like, I think Trevor Lawrence is awesome. Travis Etienne is a running back that obviously fits well with Trevor Lawrence. I mean, heck, we just saw it for 4 years. He's a really great pass-catching running back. He's super athletic. With Najee Harris, to me, like, I am not a running back film grinder. If people that watch running back film all day tell me that Najee Harris is the best running back in the class film, I say, yeah, sure, sounds good to me. Like, that, I believe it. I don't know. I don't disagree. That's not what I do. So in my database, Travis Etienne, like, when I look at his profile, all I see is checkbox, 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 checkbox. He has the right size. He has athleticism. He can catch passes.
An argument
He's
against
not first round draft capital. No, but I'm arguing with Chase. You're fine, Peter.
No, I just want to point out,
like, I just prefer him.
There's no problem with liking ETN. They're easily 1 and 2, and you can switch them out either way you want. The problem here is that, like, there's extra value there because of the offense. Like, could we have a fantasy relevant player for 2 years in a row from this front office before we get too excited about the ultimate upside from the Jaguars? Like, they're bad. They're bad at that's why we thought they might draft a running back, because you draft Trevor Lawrence, right? And then whatever they're missing, whatever is missing in their offense or their defense for this whole year, you have to wonder, well, how about not picking a fucking running back? And you would have it.
It was
like,
the
why
worst
don't you like your
ever.
team? Why don't you try to do good things for your team instead of whatever the fuck that was? And I've got, like, ETN is now the guy. Like, and I'm, I fucking love undrafted free agents. I think I'm on the record on this. It's just, it just further proves that you should not trust the Jaguars. I mean, trust ETN. He's going to be good. He's a good player. But, like, I don't want Jaguars players is the ultimate answer. I don't.
Do y'all really dismiss coaching staffs as a whole? Like,
yeah, I don't care. I care about talent.
No, I'm saying dismissing coaching staffs. Like, for example, Swift's going to be bad because they haven't had good running backs since Barry Sanders.
Like, yeah, I don't buy into that stuff. I don't like do. To me, like, it's one thing to do coaching staff analysis in the sense of you're looking at the current coaching staff and what they've done. And I think that is somewhat flawed because usually the sample is so small, because usually you're looking at, like, I'll take it for the Lions. And I'm adding myself here because I love DeAndre Swift. I've loved him. He was my favorite running back in last year's class, and I have him on, like, half my teams. But, there's a line of Swift trutherism that's like, oh, DeAndre Swift is going to catch 120 balls because Anthony Lynn likes throwing to running backs. And maybe that's true, but he's also had LaShawn McCoy and Austin Eckler. So if I had LaShawn McCoy and Austin Eckler, I'd probably also throw to running backs a lot. Like, right, he had LaShawn McCoy in Buffalo, and then he went to the Chargers, and he had Eckler, 2 of the best pass-catching running backs in the league. So to me, like, do I think it's more likely that they will throw to running backs because of Anthony Lynn? Probably. And is DeAndre Swift also a really good pass-catching running back? Probably. But if the only running backs on their roster were, Jordan Howard and I don't know, who's a running back that can't catch pass? I don't know, or just some average running back, like David Montgomery or cardboard cutout running back. Like, would I be like, oh, they're going to throw out 80 balls? No, I don't think that's true, because, or at least I don't think we can definitively say so. And to me, with the Lions, like, No, I don't buy into the fact that because Mikel LaShore didn't work out, that DeAndre Swift isn't going to work out. I think that's like a load of hooey, frankly.
Did you say hooey?
I did. I said it's hooey. We're on minute 84. Somehow people are still watching. They'll probably stop after I said hooey, but I don't know.
We can.
Are you into like? Do you believe that stuff? Like, because to me, like, I just think that it's hard to tell. Like the Shanahan thing, right? When remember Devontae Freeman? He was the RB1 in a Kyle Shanahan offense. So
I love coaching Corollary.
Oh.
I love coaching Corollary. I study coaching Corollary, and I believe in it 100%.
But then, okay, so let's take the Shanahan one, right? So we're talking.
Let's think about Callahan one.
Wait, Callahan? Who's Callahan?
Yeah, offensive line coach.
Oh, sure. Okay, well, I believe that stuff. I believe that like good coaches make teams good, but I'm talking about like from a tendency point of view.
Play calling,
right? Like I believe in it to an extent, but I just believe that players can and will transcend it. Like to me, if I look at the 49ers situation, people say, "Oh, Shanahan, he always uses the hot hand," and similar to what Shane said. Like he hasn't had a particularly great running back since being in San Francisco. He's had like Carlos Hyde and Matt. Like he's had a bunch of dudes. When he was in Atlanta, Devontae Freeman was the guy, and he was the RB1 overall in fantasy. Do I think Trey Sermon is that good? No. But if I'm wrong and Trey Sermon is that good, do I think that Kyle Shanahan will be like, no, you only get 50% of snaps? I don't think
but
so.
He also never had backups like that. So
Tevin Coleman, who was pretty kind of okay for a while.
He was not. He was very subpar. Peter, how you feeling about this? And then we're probably going to get out of here because we've been on for an hour and 25 minutes. And I know we've done like 2-hour-long podcasts before, but let's cut it down to an hour.
That's fair.
Yeah,
Peter, where do you stand on the coaching corollary?
Yeah, I don't particularly look at it. Especially for running back usage, there is coaches have more of a say in what usage they give to their running backs because, frankly, there's just fewer of them on the field and they can't earn the target or the rushing attempt in the same way that you can earn a target at wide receiver or even tight end to a certain extent. But yeah, I don't know where it's playing in. Like, where is this dividing us on players?
Well, just when you get into a situation like, well, maybe not even ETN, but like people say.
Well, ETN was the point with Darrell Bevell coming in. Darrell Bevell likes to use the running back in the passing game. Plus, he's always had a top 14 defense? I think it was the worst defense that he ever coordinated with. So he constantly uses the running back in the game because the defense dominates the stats. So sitting there and looking at it, he never had to call a ton of passing plays up until he went to Detroit. When he went to Detroit, he started calling a bunch of pass plays for the running back position. There's no way the Jaguars are actually going to end up as a top, 14 defense.
No, not a chance.
So they can end up using him a little bit more because Darrell Bevell, when is in that position, doesn't use that corollary.
Yeah, I don't know. I expect them to use ETN because I think he's good enough to take a role and then use it. And also they just drafted him fairly highly in the NFL. I'm not sure I'm getting that from Bevell. And I don't know, back to your point on small samples, I don't know where the separation comes there. But I don't think you're disagreeing on ETN's usage, so I'm not sure.
Yeah, no.
So it's not a decision point I have to make, if you know what I mean. Outside of that, coaching narratives mostly just confuse us, because I think players do a lot to drive opportunity, more so than we typically think.
Let's get this ended here because this has been, first of all, it's just been lovely having the chance to talk to you, Peter. It's always lovely having the chance to talk to you, Chase, and especially in front of a live and beautiful audience. Don't snicker.
You're saying it's lovely talking to me.
It is. It is lovely.
Oh, God.
I mean, I subject myself to this every Tuesday night. I've got to at least enjoy it a little bit, right?
Yeah, I'll take you on a date next week. I'll order you a bottle of wine for delivery.
Thank you. You don't want to order me a Blue Buck?
No, fuck no. Are they sponsors? If they're sponsors, let's do it.
It could be. I'll talk to them. Probably not. Peter, let's do one last question, and then I'll ask where we can find you. I know that you're a dispassionate and objective observer.
Oh,
but
entirely, yeah.
If there's one guy that you do not want to leave your rookie drafts without, it can be in the first round, second round, the third round, ideally in like the fourth round, to give someone a real gem.
I was going to say, don't give me that out because I'm just going to say Jamar
Yeah, no. See, here's the thing. I was working it through, and then
plenty in Nikhil Harry on his
through the question. I was halfway through the question. I'm like, oh shit, he's just gonna say Chase. How about this? Who's one guy in round 3 or later that
late
you want to make sure that you take in every rookie draft?
Good question. I haven't got through enough of them to really feel the pressure for. Like, I can kind of take the guys I like wherever I want because no one else wants them. We've already talked about Tutu. I just take him off the waiver wire if I don't feel like drafting him. So I don't think Tutu counts. And I like the running backs in this class are really just fine. Not just any of them, I guess. I don't know. Atlanta, undrafted, sure, whatever. So
Jamie
there's
Hawkins
no one,
just went 2-7 in a rookie draft. I mean,
there's no one I feel so far that I'm really, stepping up to the line for. Like, because like you say, Seth Williams got fucking screwed over. I'm ending. I think I'm going to end up with a lot of Jamar Jefferson, but I'm sure as hell not joining no Truther train. It's just sure, I guess.
Yeah, I was on that train, and then I jumped off. While I was running, and I lost a leg, actually. So
the guy that I have to answer, because he's not in the 3rd or 4th round, he's actually the start of the 2nd round, so I'm cheating here, and I get it. But, cheat. 2 successive drafts, I ended up missing out on Elijah Moore just because by a pick or so, and it really upset me. And thinking about this 2nd round, I think Elijah Moore's the more likely, very unlikely, Stephon Diggs, T.Y. Hilton, that 2nd round guy who actually is the other guy with the upside that we didn't expect. That's why we drafted in the 2nd round. Elijah Moore looks like that kind of guy to me, especially if he's being drafted in the 2nd round. And so, yeah, he's the one I've really met. Like, I just traded a 1st for him. And I don't think he's a 1st in this class.
Holy shit.
But the guy who I was trying to trade for, and he had multiple offers, and he was like, I'm going to choose the best. And I was like, count on me, I'll overpay. And that's what he came back to me with. Give me your 2nd and a 1st next year. And if I wanted Elijah Moore after missing 2 drafts already, I had to pay a 1st. So I paid it. It was an overpay, but I didn't want to leave without Elijah Moore again. So I guess that's the guy I've already done it for. That was too much. Don't do that. But that's the answer to the question. He's the guy I've gone out and overpaid to make sure I get some off.
No, that's fair. Elijah Moore terrifies me because Jets, I know,
man. I was just arguing against the Jaguars.
Oh no, like it's bad. For the opposite reason. It was the opposite reason because I have 0 Elijah Moore because, as you know, I'm a massive Terrace Marshall person, and you usually can't get both, right? Like you usually have to pick one.
You really do. You have to pick Smith, Moore, and Bateman. You got to pick one,
right?
And I'm choosing Bateman, and I want some of these other guys.
And that's fair. So to me, I'm always like Terrace Marshall, and then if I have another one, I'm like Rondale Moore. And then it's like, do I have room for Elijah Moore? And usually I don't. And so I'm terrified. Like, he could be awesome, and he'll burn the crap out of me. Chase?
So, wait. Do you have Denzel Mims or Elijah Moore?
Elijah Moore.
Oh, Elijah Moore.
Not even close.
Okay.
And I like Mims a lot last year, but a bad rookie season is a bad rookie season. It pretty much means more than his entire college profile.
It means Elijah more than his college profile?
Sam Darnold. And now Sam Darnold's with the Carolina Panthers, who you obviously don't like, and that's why you don't like Terrace Marshall, right?
No, that's not why I don't like Terrace Marshall.
I'm just kidding.
No,
it's just that unfortunately, I was just talking about this with someone over a player profiler and someone else on Twitter. Like, I don't like it. There are a whole bunch of guys that I can see that usually I would have been stumping up for, going and paying at a discount and that kind of stuff. But here's the thing. History can only kick you in the nuts so many times before you're like, I'm going to buy a cup. And the cup is bad rookie seasons. Like, they're 94% predictive. If you can find anything else that's nearly half that good in the NFL statistics, like, I want to know about it. Because almost nothing is 40% predictive. And a bad rookie season or a disappointing rookie season is actually 94% of the time, that was a signal you should have listened to. And I have way too many. Like, I want to like Jalen Reagor. I want to like Denzel Mims, but I've been kicked in the nuts way too many times. I will buy at a discount while loudly saying I should not. And so that's what I'm doing here. I was also going to say the guy that was going to be the answer to this question was Jalen Darden. And I keep forgetting he wasn't actually drafted by the Patriots. Like, that's what I thought was going to happen, and he was going to be my guy in the 3rd or 4th round.
And the Bucs ruined it. They ruined everyone. They ruined Tyler Johnson, Justin Watson, Scotty, Justin Watson, Tyler Johnson, Jalen Darden. The Bucs will take the nerd's favorite receiver and then never play them, and I hate them
every time. Anthony Schwartz is in, but I'm just naming names at this point. Yeah,
I
I actually
love
get
Anthony Schwartz.
remarkably
I like Anthony Schwartz,
interested
too.
in tight ends in this
We all
draft.
agree on Anthony Schwartz.
Weirdly, because all my favorite wide receivers went to crappy places or good places that are crappy situations for them. So I'm like, I don't know. Sorry, I didn't mean to throw out another name.
No. And Chase, I'm sadly like I'm with Peter too. And the thing that's I love Denzel Mims. He was my wide receiver 4 in last year's class pre-draft, which is a little bit crazy and obviously is wrong. So I'm just volunteering and I'm just saying I was dumb. But like to me, like I spend half my day telling people why they shouldn't go out and buy Ruggs and Pittman, who are wide receivers that looked bad to me, and then
that's the other thing. It's just being consistent, right?
So to me, it's like I can't go out and be like, haha, you losers buying Ruggs and Pittman, and I'll go and trade for Rager and Mims. It's like, no, that's I can't do that. So
I split the baby. I say, don't do what I do. Like I'm gonna go ruin my team now. Don't follow me, okay?
However, because the cost is so low, I'm still buying Bryan Edwards.
It should be, but if it's not, like it used to be, even if the cost wasn't low, I would still buy because I love that player. And
you have a N'Keal Harry tattoo on your cartoon
Sam Darnold and Tom Brady didn't like him, and like I believed all of it, and I would buy at the same price because I love this player. But
Wait, you have a N'Keal
now I need a discount.
No, on his cartoon avatar, he has a N'Keal Harry tattoo, not on his real body.
I do.
I was a little concerned.
Hey, I get enough donations. I might go out and do that. I probably deserve it.
Let's go.
Let's
well,
get me in the haircut.
Speaking of donations, Peter, where can we find you? Where can people donate to
Really?
you?
Oh, no way.
What? Sorry, what,
Are you going to pick my player?
Chase?
No, we don't
sure.
care.
Go for it, Chase. Pick someone.
Fuck your charity. No, I'm just kidding.
10 minutes ago, Chase is like, wrap up the show. And now he's like, I want to talk.
Oh, because I talk a lot, right, in this episode.
No,
Rondo
Chase,
Moore.
give your player.
Rondo Moore, Arizona does not use. Rondo Moore does not use a lot of. Arizona does not use a lot of motions. They leave their players in the slot. They leave their players on the outside. It could be a tremendous opportunity. And Rondo Moore does have the actual BMI to be able to take hits in the middle. BMI. I reference BMI for the first time ever on the show.
No, that's okay because it's a player I like. So it's good.
Okay, cool. I feel like he's being drafted too late. I just really do. Like he's a player that's going to see targets. He's a player that is going to be the focal point of this offense outside of DeAndre Hopkins. They don't have a running back, right? Question mark. So sitting there looking at it, like he's going to see short targets, to see intermediate targets, and he's going to see deep targets as well. I hate Cliff Kingsbury. I do hate him, but this is the perfect system he could have landed in. And it worried me. I was like, Amari Rodgers is going to end up here. And this is not the system for Amari Rodgers. But for Rondo Moore, this is the place that he belongs.
I agree. I love Rondo Moore, and I love him in Arizona. Sorry, I meant to say Arizona. I said Carolina.
I'm doing that a lot with this class. I'm like, I'm going to go. Yeah, he landed on an interesting offense. And then I go look. I'm like, oh, no, Tampa Bay. Fuck. Like I keep reversing it in my head to how it should be.
Draft place doesn't matter. This year it does. This year it fucking does.
Well, here's the thing. I don't care about landing spot until round 4.
Wide receivers. Okay, it matters then.
It does.
I don't know. It matters to me in round 4, right? Because like Amon-Ra St. Brown goes to the Lions, and it's like, man, round 4 draft capital, that sucks. But all he has to do to get on the field is be better than a bunch of Jags, right? Whereas like, what's Jalen Darden going to do to get on the field? Like, he could be the best player in training camp, and they're going to be like, yeah, we have Chris Godwin, Antonio Brown, and Mike Evans. Go take a seat and grab us some water, kid. Like, what's he going to do? Sucks.
Brown's interesting, too.
Love Brown.
Yeah. I mean, it's not impossible that everyone in Denver gets injured, right? So
because I'm going to injure them. I'm going to fly to Denver, and I'm going to injure them, and then Seth Williams' season will begin.
Good luck at that. I think they kick your ass. But, that's not shade. Like, those are some strong-ass dudes.
Here's what's going to happen. Aaron Rodgers goes to Denver, and, because there's a narrative that Aaron Rodgers hates players.
Oh, my God.
He's going to be like, AJ Hamler, I hate you. Jerry Jeudy, I hate you. And then he's going to be like, Seth Williams, you're my Jake Kumaro. Get on the field.
All right, get out.
All right.
Let's go ahead and close this episode out.
Where can we find you?
You can find me on Twitter at PAHowdy. I write for DynastyLeagueFootball.com, and those are the places you can find me. If you are interested, because I said the word donate, I don't know why, but if you're interested in donating to something, I would check out Dynasty Outhouse on Twitter as the king of podcasts,
awesome.
or they crowned him something. And everything he sells in his store, from the shirts to the stickers, goes straight to charity. And I think that's actually pretty awesome. Since I mentioned the word donate and someone called me on it, like that's where I'd go and donate.
We have
something
gators
from Dynasty Outhouse.
We have gators over there. You guys can go over there and find our gators. I swear to God, like go over there. Yeah, definitely donate some money and get her back.
Chase, where can we find you?
Oh, I'm not important.
I mean, you're one of two people that I can ask this question to, and I've asked Peter. So where can we find you?
We got stuff coming out. It's going to be crazy. Like Fantasy Intervention's slowly growing, and it's been a lot of fun watching it grow. I understand that certain things have been going out, but at the same time, it's like been so much fun to watch some of these new guys like you, Jacob, step up and take an assumed role. And it's nothing more than what we want to see. Like if you are interested in writing, if you're interested in doing a podcast, please go over there. Hey, we'll teach you. We'll bring you up if you need that. One of your buddies, Thomas, is somebody that's like he's taken a complete turn, from somebody, and he's now running his own like podcast. He's putting things together. He's doing phenomenal things. So please go over there and check out fantasyintervention.com, fantasyintervention.com. You guys can find us over there at FF_intervention and join our circle _.
Thank you, Chase. First off, I just want to thank Peter for coming on the show. Peter, I've wanted to have you on the show for a while. It was super, super nice of you to be willing to come on, spend some time with us. I would happily have you share a screen with me anytime and give 100 minutes of your time. It was a true pleasure. And make sure to follow along this year as our Terrace Marshall bet continues. I actually remember what the stakes are.
I agreed to come on because you asked me, Jacob, and I was like, oh, cool, we're just going to argue about Tuppence Marshall the entire time. And I was looking forward to that. No, it's great to be able to talk to you, man, outside of Twitter, because that's the only place we've hooked up before. So I appreciate the invite.
Next time is Antonio Gibson.
Yeah,
I'm just kidding.
It's so funny because I didn't even know that you didn't like Antonio Gibson. So that's hilarious.
It's not that I don't like him. Like I'm sure he's a wonderful person. He was very productive and a great pick value-wise, especially from last year's class. It's just, sorry, we're not doing another hour. We're not.
Well, look, I'll tell you what, Peter. I love Antonio Gibson. I think it was the first 2 articles that I wrote at our site have him in the banner. So I would be happy to have an Antonio Gibson discussion with you anytime. And thank you again for coming on. And thanks, Chase, as always, for bearing with me. I know I'm not very nice to you on the show, but I promise that I'm nicer to you, for the other however many hours there are in a week, a little bit. Maybe not that much.
Very debatable.
Well, whenever you say things like Marquise Brown is good, I have to anyway. And most of all, thank you to you. Thank you to you, audience. There's 7 of you. There's 7 of you still watching right now. And we've been on for 102 minutes. So you folks are the real MVPs. I couldn't appreciate you anymore. Couldn't appreciate you guys reading our work, sharing our work, commenting, trolling me online. You're what makes me keep coming back. So thank you, Peter. Thank you, Chase. As for me, you can find me on Twitter, FF_RTDB. I've actually been producing a lot of stuff lately, so if you still have a rookie draft yet to come, my rounds 1 through 4 rookie draft cheat sheet is all available on fantasyintervention.com. And if you came away from tonight unclear on where you stand on Rashad Bateman, let me try and pull you to my side of the fence over on playerprofiler.com with my latest piece on Rashad Bateman there. So thanks, folks, for coming out. Thank you for watching. And I think we will see you next Tuesday on Dynasty Intervention. And I'm going to tell Shane not to schedule another show, so he actually has to stick with us instead of trying to break up with us every Tuesday night.
This would have been like a 4-hour episode if that's the case. But have a good night.
Yeah.
Guys.